meeting of the Amherst School Board together. Let's stand for a moment of silence and pledge allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So board, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion that we approve tonight's agenda.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Seeing none opposed.
All right.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the board, we want to start tonight with recognition of Educator Appreciation Week. And this week we have been providing meals to our staff, and we have tomorrow, the next week we'll hit a few more because we couldn't get them all in one week. But the main purpose here is just to thank everyone for all they do and recognize all of our staff, teachers, bus drivers, mechanics, everybody in our division for what they do for our students and for our county. It's very important that we take the time to thank them. So at this point, I just want to say right now that I just thank them for all they've done for us and all they continue to do for us, and just want to recognize them for a job well done. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have the recognition of high school welders. So I'm going to ask Larry Johnston, the welding instructor at the high school, to come to the podium and introduce his welders and for the winning their welding awards competition.
Good evening.
Hello, sir.
I'm Larry Johnson, a welding instructor at Amherst County High School, and I have the pleasure of introducing you two young men. Luke Crawford, come on up, and Isaiah Pedraza, come on up. These two young men had competed in-house for the right to represent Amherst County High School in Level 1 and Level 2. Level 1 being the first year at the high school level, Level 2 for the second. They also compete simultaneously with college and professional levels. Both gentlemen scored first place. Proud of them both. Thank you. They worked very hard to get there.
Thank you.
Dr. Buzz, would we like a picture
Yes.
of Mr. Johnston and the students up at the board? Mr. Terry, could you Ms. Saunders, Mr. Ross, would y'all mind scooting down just towards the middle a little bit? Miss Ligon, could you move to my, there we go, perfect. Thank you. All right, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
So now we have the routine down. For the next couple, we get to do the same thing. So, all right. So next we have the recognize our Family Career Community Leaders of America, the FCCLA. They recently went to Virginia Beach and competed. And we have Ms. Brooke Schober, Mr. Sam Addison to recognize their students.
All right, good evening, everybody. I am Mrs. Schober, and this is Mr. Addison, and together we took 17 students to Virginia Beach a couple weeks ago. When we competed, and our competitions are very different, we placed in every single category that we competed in. Today, I have Ryan Cash, Victoria Freeman, Reagan Kaiser, and Brianna Brown, and Devin Morcom. Each one of them placed, and Ryan Cash is going to nationals in July to compete at a national level in Denver, Colorado, along with Brianna and Reagan. And then the rest of my team, they're not here, but like I said, every single one of them placed. And if you don't know, FCCLA is Family Career Community Leaders of America. It's a CTE organization. It's new, but it's been around for a couple decades, and we've done a lot this year, and so I'm very proud of our team and what we accomplished. So Sam will talk about what his team did, but what our team does is months before we prepare an oral presentation, a visual presentation. Some of them, depending on the category, have to do a portfolio. They go up, they present in front of the judges, they leave, the judges talk, they come back, they ask a series of questions, and then anything follow-up that needs to be given, then they give feedback as well, and they're graded on a very tough rubric too. So again, they compete at a state level, and 3 of them are going to nationals for us. So that's my team, and I'll let Sam go.
And if y'all can stay up here, then we'll get everybody up. We'll come in front and do the pictures, okay?
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Ms. Schobert. If I could call up Jonathan Holbrook and Seth Johnson, please. We took 7 students, some of which weren't able to be here. A lot of them play on the soccer team, which had games tonight, and other had work obligations and so forth. But this was our first year participating in at least 25 years. I've been doing this is my 2nd year now. And so we're very happy to be back in the FCCLA and competing. We actually did not know until about 60 days before the competition that we were actually going. And so we didn't have a whole lot of time to prepare, but we used that time as well as we could. And we were the only school out of, as Ms. Schobert said, that had somebody medal in every single culinary competition. And so our competitions were a little bit different. Seth actually competed in a competition where he did do a portfolio and a presentation board and so forth. It's called a food innovations competition, and he did a fantastic job in that. He placed bronze medal for food innovations level 2. Jonathan Holbrook. So the other competitions were hands-on. So they were the only competitions at the FCCLA where actually you went and you just did it right in front of them, and that was classic knife cuts and then chicken fabrication. So the knife cuts was how you use a knife, cutting potatoes into very specific shapes and sizes, and sanitation and all this different stuff. And then we had the chicken fabrication, which is basically breaking down a chicken into 2 thighs, 2 legs, 2 breasts, 2 tenderloins, and so forth. And then we had the kind of like a mystery box, which is kind of the ultimate challenge. We have to do 3 recipes within 60 minutes. And Isaiah Moss placed bronze in that competition. So Jonathan Holbrook took silver medal and 2nd overall in classic knife cuts for level 2. William Carver, who wasn't able to be here because of soccer, actually got gold medal and 1st overall for chicken fabrication, and he had not cut a chicken. His family actually owns a chicken farm, but he had never put a knife to a chicken before 60 days ago. But he's a master now, so. So we also had Jamina Munez, who was their exchange student from Spain, who placed silver medal for knife cuts level 3. Season Tweedy was silver medal for knife cuts level 3. Miles Davis was bronze medal for chicken fabrication level 3. And like I said, Isaiah, who did the big scary competition, I was just so proud of him for even going and doing that at all, because that is just quite an undertaking. I myself would have even been nervous about doing that particular one. I would have been nervous about doing any of them, actually. But yeah, like I said, there were 2 of the teachers there, one of them from EC Glass, the culinary teacher, and then one from Heritage. And they didn't bring any students to compete. They were just there to kind of observe. And they had just mentioned to me that they were so surprised at the award ceremony, just hearing Amherst County High School, Amherst County High School, Amherst County High School every single time, over and over. And it was just kind of blew them away. And so that made me feel really proud of my students. And I want to give them all the credit. And we worked really hard, and I think we got the results we deserved.
Thank you. So, moving on, next we have the Real World Design Challenge competition winners, and that's Miss Betty Stinson will be introducing her team from there.
Good evening. I'm Betty Stinson, and we actually had two teams that participated in the Real World Design Challenge. The challenge was that they had to design a drone that would carry the cargo payload 4,000 pounds, 300 nautical miles, and at the cruising altitude of 20 feet. 20,000 feet, a little bit of a difference there. I'm so glad they were up to the challenge. So we had two teams, and out of these two teams, they placed second and third in the state of Virginia. And then the second place winners went on to compete in the National International Challenge. So at this time, I'd like to call up our team FUFT, who did the Giga Chad. We have Peyton Jackson, who is the team captain. Daryl Hartless is not with us this evening, but Brennan Midgley and Carter Hansen. They created a drone that would do this, and they did a wonderful notebook. They also did the business challenge where they compared it to the trucking and as far as flight as well. So they had to come up with a business plan as well. Congratulations. Our other team, which is Team Albatross, they created the Molly Mock. Our team leaders, Lily Ryder and Violet Miller. We have Tori Smith, Dylan Eno, James Camp, and Jesse Sevilla. We did have other members for this team, but they weren't here tonight. Team Albatross was second in the state of Virginia, and they did a beautiful job competing at nationals, internationals. Victoria.
We want to get them all up front.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Congratulations.
And yes, this is Ms. Stinson's first year doing this with the group, so to get second and third place in the state first year, I think that's a great accomplishment as well, so congratulations.
Right.
All right. Make sure I'm in the right order. All right, so next, we have our recognition of our two school board representatives. And Fatima Grace, so you have to leave to go to answer something. Okay, that's fine. You're good.
Completely fine.
So we're going to do. Yeah. I also want to say a couple words, and members of the board, you may want to, I don't know if you want to say something as well. I know Fatima Grace does have to leave. I think Evan said he could be here the remainder of the evening, but I just want to thank them for what they've done for us this year and recognize them for their taking the time out of their lives to serve as student representatives on the school board. Again, with school and work and sports and every other activities and things outside of school, that for them to be here and commit to this is a huge commitment. But I hope they learned a little bit from this, and I wish them the best as they move on to life after high school and their next phase of their life. I'll let them speak to where they're going to college when they get a chance to speak. But at their place, I do want to give them certificates. But if y'all want to just say a moment about where you're going to be next year.
Okay. I plan to go to Florida Southern College, which is in Lakeland, Florida, and I'm double majoring. I'm going to receive a Bachelor's of Fine Arts concentrated in dance, and then also receive a master's degree in business administration.
Wow.
Hi, my name is Evan Fink, and I plan to be attending Dartmouth next year, and I'll probably major in neuroscience with a minor in business administration.
Wow.
So at your place, you have a card, it's a little pinky from us, but we also want to give you a certificate recognizing you for your time. This just says Evan Fink for the Sound Service School Representative for the school year 22-23. And y'all get the slide again.
Ms. Ligon, one way or another. Come on. All right, 1, 2, 3.
Congrats. Awesome, awesome. Lakeland, Florida. All right. That's fun. Nice and warm down there. We're freezing in here.
And Mr. Terry?
So, yeah, so before Fatima has to leave, I'd just like to thank you for your service. You know, we don't often hear from the students unless it comes through you guys. So it's great to have you guys, you know, be the kind of go-between between us and the students. And the information you bring us is so valuable. And it's just great to see you guys interacting with everybody and stepping up. Not everybody would be willing to do that because you guys are busy. So good luck to both of you, and good luck on your endeavors. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. We'll see you several more times. Graduation as well. All right, so next on the agenda is recognition of the 25 years of service and staff of 25 years of service. And so just to get started, you know, so to be 25 years of service here in Amherst County, they devoted, you know, a large percentage of their adult life to serving our students and our community. So I do thank them for all they've done for our students and for our county and for their schools they've worked in. It's a huge accomplishment. So I just want to personally say thank you to them. And Mr. Gallagher, are we going to have them come forward? We are. Okay. So the first staff member we want to recognize is Mr. Ernest Penn. And we have a challenge coin as well as an ACPS. Thank you. Appreciate it. Stay right here, and then we'll get the next groups up. The next person is someone I kind of know fairly well, Miss Karen Wells. is, believe it or not, it's been a year. This is her first board meeting that she's attended.
It's not.
Next, we have Miss Jennifer Johnson. And our next employee is Miss Lisa Mays. And last but not least is Miss Angie Gunter. We also had two members that could not be with us tonight, Miss Elizabeth Wood at Amherst Elementary School and Miss Diane Mays at Temperance Elementary School. So, again.
Hey, I wore my heels.
Congratulations, sir.
She needs an extra award just
Come on, Jennifer. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
That concludes all our recognitions, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you very much. It's great to recognize those who've done such great work in the schools, whether it's students or teachers or whatever. It's just great to recognize them. Whew, it's a little chilly. So, all right, so we will move on to, whew, got that on record, please.
The crowd's lightened so that.
Yeah, I know. So we'll move on to public comment next. And we have one person listed, but we would like to remind those who do speak tonight, we're at a 3-minute limit, but also let's make sure we're keeping it professional and not using individuals' names due to the confidentiality of such nature. So the first name is Miss Rachel Martin. Anyone? Okay. Not here. So is anyone else from the crowd like to speak? Yes, sir. State your name and address or voting district, whichever you like.
Sam Soger, District 2 Dad. Good evening, school board. Welcome, Ms. Saunders. School board, if you really want to protect ACPS students, make sure they enter adulthood with a solid education. Because whatever they do with the rest of their lives, whatever vocation they're in or not in, being good at English, reading and writing, it will help protect them and help them succeed in our society. ACPS teachers and staff need your help. They need your support. And our students and families need your support. I volunteer in the schools at lunchtime, including today for Teacher Appreciation Week. It helps them out. How about figuring out how to start to get our schools more support with funding and resources so they don't have to rely solely on volunteers to give teachers a lunch break? The school community needs the board to be focused on raising teacher and staff pay to levels closer to our neighboring localities. That will in turn help the schools give the best protection by ensuring the teachers are taken care of so we ensure that the next generation is equipped with all the knowledge they can get about language, science, history, and so on. The actions of the board over the last year and a half and beyond oftentimes sows further division in our community and disrupts the business of education. By weakening public faith in our school system, you harm the families that most need this system to be functioning optimally. For many families, homeschool or private school is not a reasonable option. They need your help to strengthen this institution. Please spend less time listening to divisive rhetoric in the media that's designed to discredit public education, and spend more time listening to your teachers and administrators and families about what's really going on and what isn't going on. The achievement gaps that Gloria talked about last month, the achievement gaps in the system are unacceptable and glaring. The fact that African American students as a whole are achieving at rates drastically lower than the white students on whole, it must be addressed immediately. How can we tolerate for one day such inequality? It's not just bad for the families it affects directly, it affects the whole school community negatively. All students benefit from their peers succeeding at a high level. A rising tide raises all ships. This should be your chief concern. Be an ally to the administration and help them give all the students the most comprehensive education possible. Sometimes it seems like you're getting in the way of our schools being as successful as they can be.
So your 3 minutes?
With your help, help ACPS become a shining jewel of the Blue Ridge. Let's do it. Peace and love, y'all. Thanks.
Sir. Anyone else who'd like to address the board? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening.
How are you tonight?
And welcome, Ms. Saunders, to the school board. I'm Bev Jones, District 5. Good evening. After viewing the April 7th, 2023 school board meeting, again, I'm just appalled by the following issue that was being created. We live in Amherst County, not the Isles of Wight. History lessons are full of controversial issues. The Isle of Wight policy even denies systematic racism that all of you know exists. It states there is no systematic racism or bigotry perpetuated in the United States or any government. The problem with this statement is that as a school board, you cannot speak for what is happening in the federal government. You can only speak for what is taking place in Amherst County Public Schools. Another one states no one is inherently a victim or oppressed due to their race, consciously or unconsciously. Thought that was odd. Skin color, gender, religion, and the list went on and on. But do you recall some of the banning that was put before this board concerning CRT and certain books in our library? The Amherst County Public School Policy, INB, states the Amherst County School Board recognized that preparation for effective citizenship is one of the major purposes of education. The preparation for effective citizenship includes the study in issues that are controversial. Such a study is carried out in an atmosphere free from bias, prejudice, or coercion. Tell me what's wrong with that policy. Very simple, very blunt, and everybody can understand it. At every school board meeting, some members of the board brings up issues that is on a political agenda. Just like Roanoke School System's policy on book banning that was brought before you all. We don't live in Roanoke either. We have qualified administrators to address what is needed in Amherst County, and we do not need outside influences or political agendas. You were elected to represent Amherst County Public Schools. This administration is attempting to move forward and bring our system back from educational losses. but some members of this board keeps adding roadblocks and additional workloads. Children must be taught how to think, not what to think. Also, when will this board just come back to every child every day and deal with absenteeism, test scores, the achievement gap, and discipline? I've always been an advocate for Amherst County Public Schools. When I taught here for 40 years, I was an advocate, and I still is. Please join me. It's a good job to have.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else who'd like to address the board? Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and your address if you'd like.
Good afternoon. My name is Samantha Levine. I live at 122 Dulwich Drive in Amherst, which is right across from Central Elementary School, where I worked last year, and have been a substitute teacher for the past 3 years in the school systems. The school lunches feed a lot of our community, a lot of it, right? But what I've noticed about the school foods is that they're full of high fructose corn syrup, dyes, and other chemicals, and I won't even get into GMOs. Dyes lead to behavioral issues like hyperactivity and an inability to focus. There's some other things too, like, red 40 causing cancer. Not something we really want to be giving our kids, right? The medicine that is given to these children to modify these behaviors also has the food dye in it. It's very upsetting. High fructose corn syrup leads to obesity. Fructose is natural, sure, it's in sugars. Of course it's in sugars. It's in fruit. But when it's in the fruit, it's also accompanied with proteins or starches and fiber, right? All kinds of different stuff. So it slows down our bodies, breaking it down, and gives it us time to catch up. High fructose corn syrup is chemically processed and condensed. So when that is going into our children's systems, well, insulin can only bond to glucose. Can't bond to fructose. So fructose has to be processed through our livers. And when it's processed through the livers, it also has byproducts like fat and free radicals. Free radicals damage cell walls, make them more brittle. So all this fructose is in the system, and the insulin has been released, but there's nothing for the insulin to bond to. So the hunger keeps on going. The hunger hormones are released because that insulin needs to get used up. So then we eat more, trying to get that glucose for the insulin to bond to. Kid has a, Pop-Tart, and 10 minutes later they're hungry. This happens every day. I would challenge the school board to restrict dyes, high fructose corn syrup, in our foods. Just give it 2 weeks. 2 weeks and monitor the behaviors. See what happens. I've recently become a certified nutritionist, health coach, personal trainer, and weight management specialist through the International Sports Science Association. And I did it because this is I'm very passionate about wellness for all of us. Because what we eat, we are what we eat. Our bodies break down the cells of the foods that we eat and makes our own cells out of them. So if we're eating chemicals, it's becoming part of us. So I would encourage everyone to, as to quote a documentary I watched recently, eat real food, not too much, mostly vegetables. And then having plenty of exercise is being encouraged, which, to be fair, the schools around here are very good at that. So yay for the small blessings. I would love to see dramatic changes in the intake of what everyone is consuming.
You have 3 minutes.
I am all set, thank you.
Great.
Saving our diets will also help to promote sustainable farming and well-being, less of a strain on public systems. Thank you.
Anyone else in the crowd like to address the board? Okay, seeing none. Moving on. 4.01.
So, Mr. Chair, next we have the consider approval of proposed revisions to the Public Schools Policy Manual that we presented as a first read last month. Dr. Hoden?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, members of the board, you have in front of you the policies that are due for their second reading.
Okay. Board?
Mr. Chair, as I looked through the policies, there were two that I thought that we as a board might like to discuss. I don't know if we want to separate those out or whether we want to take these individually. I'm fine with separating these out. Oh, they're policy DA and policy ECBA.
Okay.
So those are DA and ECBA, is that correct? Ms.
DA, ECBA.
Yes, ma'am. Just want to make sure we have our notes correct.
Yeah.
ECAB?
Okay,
Okay.
I can take that.
Board, any others from the board? Okay, so can we get a
So
motion?
you can make a motion to approve the others that aren't been asked to be, well, first you need to vote on pulling those
Yeah.
out for that, and then if they agree to pull them out, then you can approve the remaining
Everything else?
policies without these.
Okay, so do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we pull policy DA and policy ECAB for discussion.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Mr.
None
Chair,
opposed?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve all of the remaining policies.
Okay. There, we have a second, okay. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion? Aye. Okay. Dr. Wells? Okay.
So I guess we'll start with questions on policy, discussion on policy DA, and we'll be glad to answer the questions as best we can.
I don't have a question. Last board meeting I did, and I've gotten that clarified. Our current policy DA has the exact same language as this policy in front of us, other than the last sentence is just moved up to the top. In the middle of the policy, it does give us the option of whether we, as a school board, want to keep, the school board may authorize the superintendent to move line items within a major category, or whether we just authorize him to do so. So I went back and looked at our current policy, and it says that the school board may authorize. So I felt like we needed to have a discussion as to whether we want to keep it the way it was or change it. And just so that you know, my recommendation would be to approve policy DA with the option that is presented to us from the VSBA, and that is to keep it consistent with our current policy. School board may authorize the superintendent to move line items within a major category.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Does that impede the day-to-day if we have the may? I mean, if Dr. Wells or his staff is able to do it without coming back to us? Is that what or if with the may, does that mean they need to come back and ask permission? I mean, I'm a little confused.
I think, Dr. Welch, you'll have to address that. I'm just going by our current policy, keeping that language the same. You'll have to let us know whether
So,
the current
what is that?
policy
We
impedes you or
move
not.
within classifications. Outside of classifications, if we had to move from item to item, then it comes to you for approval.
Correct. Like we were talking about the transportation classification being over budget. We can't just make that because it's going outside that major classification, so we would bring that to the board. If there is something that's, you know, one instructional line to another instructional line, the superintendent could be able to do that.
And so our current policy states that we may give him that authority. So I'm just assuming historically,
You have given us that.
we have given you that, even though our policy says may, but we still give it to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, does that help?
I guess so. Is that a change that is across the board for the state, or, I mean, what's the reasoning behind it?
There's really no change. It's normal for school divisions, the ones I've worked in before, that is something that the superintendents can do within. But I think it gives you the language in case the board would like to prefer to have it everything come to them. It gives you that option.
Thank you.
Mr. Terry?
Yes, sir.
So the way we practiced in the past, the line items that get moved, and I'm assuming that's for like a day-to-day.
All right, for example, in transportation, if we use the transportation example, and Mr. Connolly, correct me if I'm wrong, is this more your area of expertise than mine?
Right.
But if there's funds inside the transportation classification, we can reallocate those to different places within transportation, but I can't pull from transportation to put in instruction or from instruction to put in that transportation without the board's approval.
Right, right, and that's the way we have been practicing that.
Yes, sir.
Policy.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
So what is the pleasure of the board?
So you'll need a motion if you want to approve.
Motion to approve.
So you have a motion to approve
This is approving policy DA, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
as it is presented?
as presented.
Okay? So there's a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Okay. Okay, so I don't have a second.
I'll give it a second, but.
Okay.
What motion did you just make? I mean,
We're approving D
as,
as it's written, presented to us.
with no changes of the may and all these funny words?
No.
And from our, Ms. Connors,
Because she
we have
clarified.
the policy as written does not impact our daily operations, and it would not negatively
It
impact
does
us.
not.
Okay.
It just reworded the paragraphs a little bit.
Correct.
So, well, question though, if we revise or leave it as it was, how does it impact compared to as it's being changed? What's the impact either direction?
If you pass it with the verbiage is authorized, we are going to continue as we have always been doing. We would bring it to the board if you're transferring outside the major classification area.
Okay, but you're saying in the past where we've had we may authorize, the board has been giving the authorization anyway.
Correct.
Okay.
So the may will be an absolute now. There wouldn't be.
They're not coming to us for.
Right, asking for permission to do so within the same designation. So that's basically, with the wording, we allow it to happen. At any point, we could remove that power by putting the new words in. The superintendent would have the authority to do that without coming back to the board. I guess that's what the real change is.
Correct. So as it's being presented, it would be, already has the authority, whereas the way it was, we may grant the authority.
Correct, and there is still some limitations because this still has to go over to the Board of Supervisors because whatever we do on our side has to be done as well on the county side. And there is limits in place that if it's over $25,000, even if it is within the same classification, it has to come to the board. Now, that's not our policy, that's what's required from a county standpoint. So there is a limit of $25,000 on that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I believe we have a second. We're in discussion, is that correct?
That's correct.
And it's my understanding, Mr. Rossi recommended that we pass the policy as stated. What I need clarification on before I were to vote is that in this policy, it says that boards that do not authorize the superintendent to make transfers should delete the sentence that's in the middle. And so you can either keep the sentence or you can delete the sentence. So I guess in order to vote accurately on this, I need to know which one is being presented in the motion.
Mr. Rossi, can you clarify?
And if I may, I think Mrs. Lukanich said it very clearly, for me at least, at the beginning, is if we keep the language, the superintendent may be authorized by the school board to make line item transfers within a major classification. If we were to keep that as our current language is, we are not changing anything in the way they do business. The only thing that we are doing is maintaining our authority as a board if in the future the board would so choose to have that discretion. If you'll notice, the last line that's moving to the front says the school board manages and controls the funds made available to it for the public school and incurs costs and expenses. My concern is that I don't want to hamstring this board or a future board from having the authority to manage and control their funds. To me, if we keep it with may, then we still give them the authority to do that. It just doesn't hamstring another board down the road. So those are my thoughts on it, but in order to vote, I just need clarity on the motion.
So if I may, so our current policies this has a term, superintendent may be authorized by the school board to make line item transfers. The new policy, scratches may be authorized by the school board, and instills is authorized to make line item transfers. So I guess the question that you need to, Mr. Rossi, if I'm correct, you made the motion to do the new policy. Did you make the motion for the new policy, or keep the motion to keep us with the existing policy? I guess is my question. So it's as presented, which would be the new policy, which is authorized.
Correct.
Okay. So the motion is authorized, is adopting the new policy, which takes out the may and just puts it as is authorized.
Gotcha. Okay, so the motion on the floor that has been seconded states that we will revise the procedure and it will go to the is authorized language. Is there any other discussion on that?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would like to still keep as written, but also as written, keep the may as the line that should be deleted but should not be. So I think that we
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Since it's been seconded, you need to vote
Yeah.
on that motion.
okay,
And then if it passes, it passes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And then
Okay.
you can make a second motion if it doesn't pass.
okay. So, is there any other discussion on this motion? Okay, so all in favor of accepting the changes as presented to policy DA? Anyone in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
The last thing, hold it. Just say what you said again. You said, Mr. Rossi,
Yes.
you just read it. I'm reading the superintendent, that's probably out of order. The superintendent is authorized to make line transfers within a major classification. That's what we voting on?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
The new.
As presented, the
As
policy as
Yeah.
presented.
Okay,
And as you scroll down, you will also
I see
see
that.
that it's removing the sentence,
yeah,
which,
put it at the top.
right.
Okay, so what we're saying is as DA is in front of us, that's what we're voting to accept?
Yes, as the one that's as presented, yes.
Because you said with certain classifications, he has to ask, it has to come to us anyway, right? Yeah, yeah, okay, I'm straight now. I kind of knew that. I don't even know why they changed it, but anyway. Okay, no more questions. What's next?
Okay, so the motion out there is to accept the policy as it is presented. We're calling for the vote. So all in favor of the motion? All opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so the motion fails. So we would like to
Is there another motion?
make another motion,
To put it back to where it was, I guess. Is
Miss-
that where we are now?
if that's the,
I'm okay.
so do I have another motion that we'd like to
So.
entertain?
If I may, Mr.
Yes.
Chair. So do you want to, before you make the motion, I guess the question would be, do you want to keep the wording as is in the new DA and just change the is authorized to may be authorized and keep the rest of the policy the same, or just not pass it at all and revert to our original policy? That would be,
Mr. Chair, I was going to make the motion, but I think you said it well, that we keep policy DA as it is, other than we change that sentence, the superintendent may be authorized by the school board to make line item transfers within a major classification.
so basically you're going to keep everything has been lined out as lined out, underlined as underlined, except for may be replaces is authorized.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's my motion.
Okay. Okay. I
Second.
need a second to that.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion, any further discussion? Okay, so I'll call the vote. All in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
All right.
DA has been approved as
As amended.
amended, yeah. Okay. Next, ECAB, AB. AB. Any discussion on ECAB?
Mr. Chair, just for informational purposes as to why I wanted us to talk about this one, is the only change in this one is it strikes policy JFC-R, or the regulation, standards of student conduct. This board voted to keep JFC-R regulation as part of our policy manual when the states, or when VSBA suggested taking that out. Since the board voted to keep that in, I felt that we may want to keep this reference since it's part of our policy. So if I would make, excuse me, I would make a motion that we pass policy ECAB as it is, but keep JFC-R, which I guess is our current one.
That's our current regulation.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So then let me restate that. I make a motion that we do not approve the new ECAB policy and keep our old one.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so discussion of this, are there changes in there that we are going to make except for the reference, or just leave it as it is what we're, okay.
So there were no other underlines or deletions in the policy. It just struck JFC-R. So the policy itself would stay the same. You would just be leaving JFC-R in our policy as opposed to deleting JFC-R.
Okay. So,
There's also a change in school board shall to school board ensures.
Not in EC.
Not an ECAB,
Oh,
sir.
yeah, okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
It's just the cross-reference is the only thing that was changed
right.
in that one.
And this would
Yeah,
become an ACPS policy because we're keeping JFC-R in the policy.
okay. Okay. So any other discussion on leaving the policy as it was without amending it as presented? So, we have a motion on the floor, we have it seconded. We'll close discussion, we'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? No. So we will keep ECAB as it was prior without the revision.
So we will not revise.
Not revised. Thank you.
Correct. Thank you.
It's a roundabout way of getting there, but we got there. Okay. So next, 5.01, consent agenda, or 5.5 consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I make a
5.01.
motion that we approve tonight's consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed.
All right, thank you. So, Mr. Chair, next we have the administrative, Dr. Hoden.
Sir, Mr. Chair, members of the board, it's been a busy week with the construction project. We have received approval for the site plan as well as the approval from VDOT, so that's good news. The bids were, as you know, shifted to close for this past Monday, May 1st. During that process, we received 3 bids. Our goal would be to move forward with the lowest bid, and Dr. Wells is going to follow up on that project.
So, Mr. Chair, members of the board, we did receive the bids on Monday. They came in above budget, so we'd like to go with our lowest, I guess our lowest bid on that, which would be a Jamerson Lewis, and enter negotiations to see if we can get that price at a price that is more closer to our budget line. And so it does not require us to enter into any type of contract. It's just we can't negotiate with anyone until we identify the firm we want to negotiate with, because we can't play one company against the other company and say, oh, you do this, and back and forth. So we have to identify one of the firms, and then before we get into negotiations. So our request tonight will be, one, if you have any questions about the process, Mr. Bauer from CRA is here to answer any questions we have, but then also to get a consensus on us moving forward with negotiations with Jamerson Lewis, so we can see if we can get the price at something that is we feel is more in line with our budget.
Okay. Board, any questions for Dr. Wells on this?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
The firm that we're going to be consulting with, I guess they're going to be handling the contracts between the contractors, is that
Mr.
what?
Bauer, do you want to speak to those specific questions regarding that? He's
There we go. Bring them
the
up.
subject matter expert.
Yes, sir.
So you do the consulting between contractors, or are you,
I'm just the architect.
so you're just the designer?
Right. So what the process is that we have in Virginia, there's a general contractor, okay, who is the one who oversees all of the contracts within the project itself. So what the law permits is that if the bids that came in are greater than the allowable funds, then we have the ability to negotiate with the lowest responsible bidder. And that's what we're asking permission for, is to negotiate with them to discuss process, schedule, materiality, things like that, in order to be able to get us back within the budget itself. That's what we're asking permission for.
Oh, I understand now. Okay, that makes sense. And accountability, how does that rank?
Accountability with who?
With pricing, and say the bid comes in, you go through and discuss the bids with other contractors. How does that take place?
Right, so we can only discuss with the lowest responsible bidder. Okay,
Correct.
so that would be the general contractor, and then underneath the general contractor is your plumbing, your electrical, your mechanical contractor. The players would not really change. What we're looking at is opportunities to save dollars through different processes or different materiality, or modifying the schedule. We gave them a schedule to say, okay, this is the first phase, second phase, third phase.
Correct.
They're going to propose different processes. So again, they propose it back to us. We review it. Both us as the architect and the engineer, the school division does, and we have to agree to that process. So nothing moves forward without the agreement that what we believe is reasonable, and that we're accepting of the pieces. We don't, just because they offer it doesn't mean that we have to accept it.
Very good. All right.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I'm new, so I apologize, but we're also in the middle of doing a building for the EDA. And so do y'all have any deducts that you can try and get this bid down? I mean, because from what I can understand, it's highly over budget. So are there some ways that, because is it plausible to go forward is what I guess I'm
Yes, ma'am. So what we have is that with the actual bid received, we have a base bid, and then we have 18 alternates that we asked them for. And that was part of the basis of bid. I said the next step is to vet those, to say, okay, they offered this much, and is that the value that is appropriate? And then also to get a little bit deeper into this, which is to talk about some materiality and other alternates, to say, these are some options that you have to be able to move forward. Different types of fencing, different types of brick. Again, our goal is not to diminish the project. Our goal is to look at different processes to try to get us within the budget.
Any other questions? Okay. So Dr. Wells, what do you need from us?
So I need a consensus from the board to give us the authority to move forward and enter negotiations with Jamerson Lewis, since they were the lowest responsible bidder. And then from that point, we will enter that phase, and then we will report back to the board once we have gotten to a point that we have what we feel is a good number from them, and then we'll move forward from there.
Okay. I'm in agreement. Anyone else? Anyone opposed? Okay. I think you got consensus from the board.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you
Have a
very
great
much,
evening.
Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you.
Let's see.
So next we go back to Dr. Hoden with the Child Nutrition Corrective Plan update.
So Ms. Klein had to present to the state back in December, and she just wanted to note that most other Virginia districts had to do so. The biggest thing that she will be doing because of that excess balance in the cap, she'll be looking at replacing outdated equipment, continue with the 4P Foods. It's a vendor, it's a pilot program. Basically, it adds more locally grown produce, so she's going to continue that. She's going to look at employing student interns through the CTE program, replacing more outdated equipment, increasing food costs and labor costs for school year 23-24, increase the fruit and vegetable tastings. She'll be increasing the salaries and benefits for her employees in 23-24. And also, she has asked me to look at pricing for replacing the child nutrition van. And I'm trying to do that, which, as you know, vehicles are pretty difficult to come by, but I've reached out to a few people, so I don't have an answer on that yet, but that's one of the things that she's trying to do.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Hoden, did I hear you say that one of the things in the plan to correct excess balance was increasing food cost in 23-24?
Yes, ma'am, because it's kind of complicated. So basically, through COVID, okay, we actually produced more meals and we got reimbursed at a higher rate, and we didn't have as many folks working. So through doing that, that will kind of more streamline those costs. And I know it's kind of complicated, but that's kind of the reason over the last few years that the costs, or that she has a cap on this.
I guess I have a hard time understanding why we're increasing food prices when
Surplus.
when we have a surplus, and they're
Right.
concerned that we have a surplus, and they're telling us we have to go spend money.
Well, because all
on
the other things, so if we don't, then we're gonna be the other way.
So are you saying?
For, I guess, inflationary reasons this year, we may have to increase because of the cost, but yet we still need to spend down the money into reserves and the balance. So that puts us needing to refurbish, buy new equipment. But again, I guess what we can do is have Ms. Klein come speak to you directly, because it was her budget, and she's the one that had the right to get the plan approved by the state. So if you'd like, I can have her address the board directly regarding that question, because it does seem kind of backwards.
It sounds weird. It sounds weird.
I did actually ask that question, so that's what we were going through. So back, the big explanation, she has to increase to kind of maintain, she's reimbursed at a certain rate, so, but the food costs are also increasing, so she's increasing only to kind of to stay steady. And then there'll be, by doing that and then increasing her salary for her employees, they'll kind of be at a better place, if that makes sense.
Mr. Connors, you have anything to add to that? No?
She's like, no.
I think that everything made sense except the increase.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, of course, if you got a lot of money, we got to spend it, which is unusual. So, yeah, buying equipment and buying trucks and buying different foods. But I'm with Ms. Thompson. I apologize, Mr. Chair, for not asking for.
That's right. You're
That,
fine.
the last part of that, I read this a couple of times. How did we get this? I think you explained it in your first sentence. How did we get this balance like this?
So it comes over the cost of time, but, and again, almost every division had this, but one of the big reasons is we produced a lot of meals through COVID. And so understand the way that the cafeteria budget works is we actually get a reimbursement for the meals we serve. We served a lot more meals during COVID, but she did it with a very minimized staff. So her costs were down, her meals were up, and she got a lot of reimbursement.
Because remember during the closure, we were providing
Right.
multiple meals.
Providing meals for students,
Okay,
and
I
that was
kinda
very
get it.
successful, which is a great thing.
I only had 2 staff members in.
So
Right.
the income is based on what we sent out, and normally you would need more staff to do that, but we did it with minimal staff. So
Correct.
that extra income we got per meal would have covered the extra staff that we did
Right.
not need.
And plus her pay is below standard. That's why we're trying to kind of get that up to the area average.
Gotcha.
Well, Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Wells's offer to have Mrs. Klein come talk to us about the food costs, you know, I understand she's doing what she's being told to do by the government, but it may be helpful for us to understand and for the public to hear. So if they increase food costs but know that we have excess money, they may not
Certainly.
understand without that explanation. So it
We
might,
can have her do that in the June meeting, if that would suffice the board.
Yes, I think that would help. There's enough,
Okay,
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
little fuzzy.
uncertainty there that we, yeah.
no problem. We'll add that to the June agenda.
Thank you very much.
All right, and then next, we will go on to 6.02, student suspensions. You have in front of you the student suspension list for April.
Thank you, Dr. Hood. Anyone, any questions for Dr. Hood?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hood. 7.01?
So, yes, Mr. Chair, members of the board, next we have 7.01, Finance, Ms. Lakonich.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the school board. Before tonight are your financial reports for the period ending April 30th. And while there's really been no change from the prior months, I do want to mention 2 items and then see if you have any questions. And they're both surrounding the school operational revenue. So I know at the last meeting, I was asked about the state revenue, and at the time, we had not had an official calc tool, and we were doing a lot of projections and looking at a lot of memos and just trying to figure out what that was going to look like. And the good news is we did get an official calc tool, and our projections were right in line, so we are in good shape with what we've been using for our spend down plan. So that was a real positive. Now, there's one other thing, though, that we are seeing that we wanted to bring to your attention, and that is in the area of sales tax. So when we first had our budget passed, the state had estimated about $5.9 million in sales tax. And when it was adjusted, which is something they do, they'll raise the sales tax, lower basic aid. The current is showing $6.5 million in sales tax projected revenue. And that is not guaranteed, so it's really important that divisions monitor it to see how it's coming. And we have been trending higher than the same period the prior year until the last couple months. And it started flattening out, and now we are behind. And if it continues, we will not be meeting that $6.5 million mark. And it does fluctuate, so this may be a premature, but I want to bring it to your attention. And when you think that, this is April, so we still just have May and June, it is for us more than 2 months because we're on accrual accounting, and we actually recognize the following 2 months. So we have a third of our sales tax revenue at this point that is unknown. And if the trend continues, we won't meet the 6.5, and that will negatively impact any year-end funds that we will have. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention, and I will give you an update, every month as we continue to monitor it, and maybe it'll change, but right now it is trending down.
Great, thank you, ma'am.
Do you have any questions?
Any questions, Ms. Lukanich? Okay, thank you, ma'am. 8.0, Dr. Wells?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the board, next we'll have instruction of Dr. Norman.
Good evening, members of the board. I have several things to talk to you about. The first one would be just a review for you of our ESSER 3 plan, and with Ms. Lukanich, our ARP spending plan. These are posted up on our website. They have been for the last several years. What I've sent to you last time we updated the board, you requested that the plans be redlined. So we did strike-throughs, and then the red is what would change. We had probably 13 or 14 changes into the actual ESSER plan itself, going anywhere from updating this testing data when that comes available to moving out the information from VDOE about bridging the gap because they did not implement their plan, so that put us on hold with our plan. Also, the school community grant that we were awarded, the $324,000, that is now placed into this plan and specific for Amherst County High School. And then again, our services that we've moved from our MAP assessments that we did during the pandemic over to our Performance Matters, which gives us regular benchmark testing as well as the teachers in the classroom can use it on a regular basis. Those are the bulk of the changes that we had. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer this will go posted tomorrow or Monday probably back up on the website with the changes corrected, as well as the link is still in there for any community member to comment on the plan at any time. From the last time we presented it to the board till yesterday, there had been no information that was sent through forms in regards to that link. So we have not had any community feedback. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer regarding that.
Okay. Board, any questions for Dr. Norman?
Quick question.
Yes, we did make an adjustment today, and thank you very much. The contact tracing, I just forgot to strike through that. We do not contact trace. And Ms. Patron is very excited about that.
Was that it?
No, just a
Okay.
quick question. There's a reference that we have a school community grant from VDOE for grades 9 through 12. How much is that grant?
$324,000. Yes, ma'am.
And will that start next year? Or is
Actually,
that
it
already
starts
being
now. We've
communicated?
already started. Our Day of Giving has been supported by that grant. We're in planning mode for next year. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I mean, it looks like a very worthy cause. That re-engagement of students is important. Thank you. That's it.
Anything else for Dr. Norman? Thank you, Dr. Norman.
Thank you. The next item I'd like to talk to you about is just some changes in regards to the accreditation and accountability and cut scores. And this is just to kind of give you a heads up on, again, things that VDOE are changing midstream. One of the things, and I just got this information, so I wanted to provide it to you. New science tests. They're given for the very first time this school year. They're taking them next week, I believe. Typically, VDOE actually adopts new cut scores with each test that they take. They have determined, based on the state wanting to do a revamping of the accreditation standards, that they are going to use the old cut scores for this new test, and then which will allow them to equate across the state, which means that our science scores will come in on a delay. And so we'll get them back later than we would normally have. And I just needed to kind of give you an update on that. Also, VDA will pull together a committee over the summer to talk about cut scores for the current reading and math test. Those are new tests. They anticipate that that will not actually happen until April of 2024. So the data that we're getting from these new tests, we're not really sure how they're going to calculate that. They haven't told us yet, but as soon as they do, I will let you know. It's one more change. The final change that the state came through is just in giving us some clarification on student growth. So last year, we were allowed to use student growth for grades 3 through 8 in reading and in math. And we were able to use any growth that met the range for students, whether they failed a test, whether they passed a test. If they showed any increment of growth from range 1 to range 4, we received, the kids received a pass or points to it, and we received points into accreditation. They have changed that. This year, in the memo, it states that a student must have failed the test. In order to receive growth, they will have had to, for grades 4 through 8, determine that they at least have to move up one level or one range. So it cannot be any child who's passed the test and shown growth. It's just those that have failed will pick up growth points on that. Also in grade 3, because they did not take a test last year, and this is their first assessment that they will have taken, they will do the same exact thing, and they will use growth from the fall growth assessment to the spring SOL test, and we'll get points on that. But it's only for any child who failed their SOL test at the end of the year. If they showed incremental growth from fall to spring, they'll provide us growth points on that. And any questions in regards to the calculations on that? It clear as mud, yes.
I don't particularly like it.
Yeah, you have to fail in order to get that.
Well,
Yeah.
you have to fail twice.
Right.
And I mean, it's not you, but I just don't, when I knew about it, I read it, but I just don't like it. To me, it's, well.
Yes,
good
ma'am.
sense. But anyway, no, I understand what you said.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The last thing that I would like to talk to you about is our summer academy, our summer programs. This year, it's a little bit different because we have a budget restraint. Our CARES funding for our summer program, we spent that. We have a little bit left over, and we're putting that towards that this year. But we went back and we had our teachers and our principals gave us a list of those students who were below grade level, struggling, and were needing that summer program. And those were the first students that we actually handed out invites to their parents, and we've contacted them, and they have been given an invitation to the summer academies. We do have, because we have lots of families who want to have their children experience our summer programs, we have a wait list for those students who we have invited and choose not to attend. We have a wait list for those that have not been invited because they are above grade level or on grade level, that are on a wait list for that program. Currently, we've invited 206 students. That's in comparison to what we have done over the previous years, which last year we had right around 700 students participate. And the year before, I think we were close to 1,000. I'll have to check on that, but it was high up there. It was more than 700. And we have only 22 families who have actually signed up their students that have been invited to it. So we're actually making phone calls not just from the schools doing it, but at central office, we're calling into each of the families, asking them to register their child for it, explaining the programs and what they're all about. We also have our middle school programs as well as our high school programs for credit recovery, and those are going on as well. And the numbers, I've kind of given you a chart, which Dr. McGinnis has put, as well as the information of when those programs are going to be taking place. And I'll be more than happy to answer any questions on that.
Any questions from the board? Yes, ma'am.
Half a day again.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you think that's what's causing the hindrance of how the parents are going to get them back home? Now, there is a bus, am I right?
Yes, we do provide transportation, and previously we had not done that up until the pandemic, and we started when we did the summer programs during the pandemic.
Anything else on the board?
Mr. Terry?
Yes, sir.
Have we tried to collect any data saying, maybe finding out why parents are not signing up for this program, or?
Hopefully when we start making those phone calls, when we start Monday in regards to that, that's one of the questions that we'll be asking them as to why they have not taken advantage of that, or not, did they not know about it? We've had emails go out, we've had alerts, school messenger, social media posts, letters went home with kids. We've mailed postcards out, so I'm not really sure what that is. It is the half day, it's a little bit more than a half day. It goes from 8:30, I believe, to 2:30. So it's a little bit more. Mm-hmm.
And transportation is also on that, so.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Anything else from the board? Okay, thank you, Dr. Norman.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Norman. Next, we have Student Services. Mr. Neighbors.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I wanted to update you all this evening on a little bit of program relocation we're going to have for next year. After significant deliberation, speaking with our administration and other staff, we've made the difficult decision to move some of our programming for a lot of different reasons, which I'll get into, but just to update the board, our pre-K programming, so 2 classes, VPI and VPI inclusion at Amelon Elementary School will be shifting to Madison Heights Elementary School for next school year. In addition, we have a program at Madison Heights that serves some of our adaptive curriculum students that will be shifting to Amelon. So we're doing a little bit of a swap of programs there. To explain to the board the thinking behind that, ultimately we were looking for alignment of programs and allowing our teachers, our staff in those programs to have maximum availability of collaboration, resources in the building to support those unique needs, and being able to ensure that we're providing all the opportunity we can for our students participating in those programs. The addition of the 2 pre-K classes at Madison Heights will actually bring them up to 6 early childhood classes in that building. So that is developing quite the early childhood hub for us there at Madison Heights. In addition to that, at Amelon, we already have 3 existing classrooms dedicated to the adaptive curriculum. This would be a 4th, and again, allow a lot of sharing of resources, staff, as well as students based on their needs and what they might be bringing in to that particular school. Again, never easy to make these decisions. We have already spoken to the staff in these programs. We're in the process of speaking individually to families to explain kind of how we got to this point and why we feel like that's going to be beneficial moving forward. But as a part of that, we wanted to ensure that you were also aware of those changes and why we had gone down that road. I'd be happy to answer any questions the board might have about that.
Thank you, Mr. Neighbors. Anything from the board? Questions?
All right.
Okay, thank you.
And I did have one additional update. If you permit me, Ms. Albert asked me to do a quick plug for our early childhood registration for next year. We have events coming up on May 11th and 12th. And we've added an additional date on June 5th. So at each school, that current school that has pre-K programming will have in-person slots available for families to come in and register. We have received 120 applications to date, which is up significantly from the last time I was able to update 47 of those students so far have met criteria for the program. The remainder, or most of the remainder there, we're still waiting on some income verification, but very excited about the numbers we already have, and those events usually bring in quite a bit more. So no trouble filling our slots for next year is the anticipation. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Thank you, sir. So next we have Mr. Gallagher, Human Resources.
All right. Mr. Chair, members of the board, good evening. I have a few informational items for you this evening. The first one is the vacancy memo that you have before you, kind of giving the outline of where we stand currently with vacancies as we report each board meeting. So I'll take any questions on that. I will make a quick note that 2 of those positions we hired today, so they would come off, and that would be the elementary teacher at Elin and the math teacher at the high school. So those, you won't see those on there, hopefully, next board meeting. But I'll take questions if you have any.
Okay. Anything from the board? Thank you, Mr. Gallagher.
You're welcome. Additionally, you have a memo at your place regarding our classified and licensed personnel work calendars. That kind of outlines who is represented by all 4 of the calendars that we have posted. This is provided to you also informationally each year, so you have an idea of the workday calendars for the different variations in our staff and how that's comprised. The 250-day calendars, 220, 200, and 190. And the memo just outlines who falls within each of those areas and outlines that the teachers do follow the ACPS school calendar and are on a 200-day work calendar, work contract. So any questions you have about any of that, I'd be happy to field.
Anything from the board?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gallagher.
You're welcome. And lastly, and maybe most importantly, we have an opportunity coming up in 2 weeks from tonight to celebrate our amazing retirees at a dinner celebration at Sweetbriar College Prothrow. I do put down that that's at 5:30. That's usually to get everybody through the gate appropriately. We will start promptly at 6 over there. I highly encourage and hope every one of you will participate and attend that event. It's a fabulous event, an opportunity to reflect on our retirees, to present them, and have a nice night to get together in celebration. So that'll be coming up on the 18th. So I look forward to seeing you all there, hopefully. One change, for a while we had the gatehouse created kind of a dilemma getting through. We will no longer have to stop and provide information to the gatehouse. So you'll be able to easily flow through. Should be no holdups there. So and that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Look forward to it.
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher.
Next.
Next, we have information from Evan, our student representative. Mr. Fink.
What's crazy is I think this is the last time I'll be talking to this microphone. But just a little update on what's going on at the high school. There's a lot of stuff that's happened recently and ongoing. I have a list here of just the ceremonies, the scholarship award ceremony, the Golden A ceremony, the Golden Tassel ceremony that already happened. For all the early college and dual enrolled kids, you have the college graduation, the high school graduation, athletic pictures were today. It's a lot. And frankly, I think we're all just a little bit ready for it to be over with. I enjoy it, but I'm also looking forward to summer. So, yeah. Besides that, I don't really have much to say, but to thank you all for all the opportunities and the candy you've given me. It's a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So again, I want to thank Evan and Fatima Grace for their time serving this year, and we wish him the best as he moves off to Dartmouth and future endeavors there. So that's a great accomplishment. Again, just thank you for the commitment, because I know it takes a lot out of your time to show up to these meetings, sometimes till 10 o'clock at night, when some are longer nights. So we'll try to make this a little better for you tonight. Yeah, it is. I'll see if I can keep it that way. Don't jinx us. All right. Next, I have superintendent matters.
Okay.
So first thing I want to bring up to your attention, you have this at your place, and it deals with student discipline. As you are aware, from sitting on our discipline committees, we've had a pretty big uptick in drug cases this year, mainly THC and CBD-based drugs whether through vapes or gummies or actual marijuana or et cetera. Typically, we average between around 16 or 17 cases a year in a division. This year we've had 40 so far, not counting, I don't know if the ones from tonight were on there or not. So we've had around 40 cases this year for students using THC or CBD-based products. I think that can be attributed to multiple things. One, you can't drive 5 minutes to Madison Heights without seeing a vape shop. The legalization of marijuana through the state for those over 21 in their house, not at school or anywhere else, may have made a difference too, and the access to certain things, or the acceptance more so. But we're seeing that. I mean, this is across the state. This isn't just an Amherst County problem. I've talked to superintendents across the state, and they're having the same problem with, 7 or 8 students every 2 weeks coming to school board discipline hearings because it's happening everywhere. I'm not going to diminish it, but we do need to come up with something else to figure out a way to help deal with our students and work with our students that are using these types of drugs. So what we're proposing, I'll give you the 30,000-foot view. Again, you have the written copy at your place, but what we're proposing is next year, as we start into the school year, that students who have a possession or a use of a vape or a THC vape or something along those lines, that they still come to the school board for 10 days. They still come to the board. You have the option of giving them the option of going through a treatment program through Horizons, which they'd have to complete with their family. If they choose not to do that, or they don't complete that, then they would go alternately place or get other suspension depending on the severity of what they do. This will be for first-time offenders, people who distribute, or second-time offenders, or possess other drugs other than the THC. Would not, it'd be different for certain other drugs if there's a heavier drug. But for our THC type offenses, I think everybody have to go through the treatment, but this would allow you as a board to direct these students after the 10 suspension through some type of treatment program, as opposed to just 10 days or alternate place. We would recommend, based on this proposal, that if they go through the treatment program, if they're in the program, that they be allowed to return to their base school as long as they're in the program and are completing the program as prescribed by the mental health directors there. If they don't participate in the program, then they would be alternately placed. Again, that's a 30,000-foot view. Ms. Petrone, if you have anything to add, you feel free to add to what I've just stated.
Yep, thank you, Dr. Wells. The only thing I would add is the process at Horizon is to do an evaluation of the student and kind of look at what exactly the family needs. So this could also be a way that parents and siblings and other household members get linked into treatment. And it could be a lot more than just this treatment. This would just be the treatment that we're contracting with them for. So they could offer other services that would really benefit the families that we see in the discipline meetings. And the evidence-based model that they're using for substance abuse service, it's ACRA, which is Adolescent Community Reinforcement Approach. And it is, there's research out there about the effectiveness of it, working in as little as 7 meetings. So depending on the case, it could be a lot more intensive than 7. They do have the ability to do drug screening with parent permission and things like that. But so it can be very intense for some kids, and for others it could be very light and only 7, visits.
But that will be determined by Horizons as they get through in processing, is what this individual may need based off of their history.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So, we can bring you more if you have more questions. I can bring you more information next month if you'd like. But we would like to move forward with this next year, but I think maybe we'll come back in June and have further discussion. This is, again, just a first view of it. But we are entering into negotiations with Horizons to be able to provide this service. If you don't have any major concerns, then we'll go ahead and move forward, and then we can also discuss it in more depth at our June meeting if you so desire.
Okay. Any concerns from the board?
Mr. Terry?
Yes, sir.
It's not really a concern. This plan has been offered by Horizon, and I've sat through some of the discipline meetings, and I know there's services that are already being given to certain individuals, and would this be in addition to those services? And
Dr. Petronis,
the
Yeah.
cost absorption, because obviously we're seeing an uptick in it. And
This would be an additional service. So this would be, most of our students are not already linked in with substance abuse services, and this would
Correct,
be specifically
correct.
substance abuse services. Now, they could also access mental health services if they're not already linked with those, but those would
Good,
not be
right.
things that we would be contracting with or following. That would be on the family to, do on their own time, and we wouldn't have any release to talk about those mental health services.
right.
But we would have information about the substance abuse services because we want to make sure that they're complying with the services and going to their appointments and doing what they're being recommended is done. That way they're safe to be in our buildings and we're not concerned about them coming to school high or distributing anything like that.
Now, there are some employment services out there now that do offer screening to, I guess, screen for the current or recent use of THC within 2 hours. Is that something that the school has thought about looking into also?
Well, I guess that would be a question with legal counsel because there are some questions about that, and can we mandate a person take a screen? Right, previously council has stated that we cannot dictate that. We can recommend to parents to do that.
Right,
We can't.
as part of, I'm trying to understand what it's gonna look like next year.
Right.
I mean, obviously, there's something happening, things have changed. And with the legalization of it, we're seeing more of it. And it's affecting our school, it's
Right.
affecting our students. However, just turning our backs to these students is not the right thing to do.
So one positive thing was things at the state legislature is they have certain July 1, certain like Delta 8s and some of those things are not allowed to be sold in the stores. Those will have to come off the shelves. A lot of the stuff now, some of the vape pens and stuff like that that are being sold, those will be illegal to be sold at some of the, in Virginia. So they are tightening the regulation of the synthetic marijuana. So some of those synthetics will be coming off the shelf because July 1, the new law goes into effect. That will be a positive for us.
Right.
Because I think it'll be lessen the access to that, but it's still around.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been there. So next year, we're thinking that they'll come in front of the board
Yes.
and we have certain protocol that we have been following, so that'll change over to, they'll go over to Horizon.
So they would come to the board. If it's a first offense, you have the option, you have the option to do either saying, parents, you need, your child we would like your child to go through this program. If the family refuses, then they would obviously go this way. If it's a major case, then instead of going to that program, we would still send them to that program because we feel they would need the treatment. But
Right.
yet, you could also alternately place as well as the program, depending on the severity of what they do. But we would recommend for first offense, based off of this change, that if it's a first offense for a minor infraction that do the 10 days, they go through the treatment program. But if they're completing the program and doing what they're supposed to do, they'd be allowed to come back to school versus being alternately placed for the first offense.
All right, and would, just like they do with some employers now, services, volunteered services, they have a choice whether to or not to. That's
Right.
their choice. What about testing as part of the choice option? Maybe to get them into school sooner, or,
Again, I think that would be, I know if with parent consent, Horizons can
Right.
test, but I think we'd need legal counsel to weigh in on whether or not we can mandate that they be tested. I would not want to give you that answer right now without talking with legal counsel.
okay.
The way Horizon is looking at doing this program is that the drug testing is actually a therapeutic part of the program. So it's just to help for accountability in the therapeutic process, not accountability like we would have in the court system. So I think for this particular program, like the Horizon part of it, it would be separate. Like, I don't think we would even want to know about the drug results. We want to know that they're being compliant, doing what they're supposed to do, they're showing up for their sessions, and even if they're still not clean, they're making progress, and that's what we want to know. That way we feel like they're safe to be in our buildings and where they need to be. Does that make sense?
Well, I think part of being safe is to make sure that they're not endangering other students.
Yes, I agree. It takes a while for some of those things to come out of their system. So I think doing these things therapeutically and letting them, like, part of substance abuse treatment, and I say this because I used to do substance abuse treatment, is it's not just cessation right away. It's cutting back. And so sometimes that's not something that happens immediately. So it's not like in 30 days you're clean.
Right.
So as long as they're therapeutic and complying and doing everything they need to do, then they would be complying with our part of the program.
But if they aren't, or they do bring things to the school that they're not supposed to, then obviously we deal with that as we need to deal with it.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you talk to me a little bit about the funding that would be required?
So, yes, we're looking at a few different grant options. So there are opioid abatement funds that were distributed already to the county, but the state also holds a pot of money, and they have grants open that we can apply for and hopefully be selected for, and that would cover the cost of the clinician at Horizon. Horizon has also applied for a SAMHSA grant, and they said if they were to get that grant, that they would pilot the program under that grant. So we have two different viable options for funding this. And the only cost that we have to incur is the clinician at Horizon. So it's not an enormous cost.
So we would be paying for one full-time clinician?
Yeah, well, we wouldn't be paying it. The grant would pay it, and the grant would actually have to go through the county, so the county would be paying it.
So would that clinician be designated just for Amherst County?
Depending on the caseload. So they will be our clinician just for Amherst County, but they will also probably have to do some other work until their caseload is built up, because otherwise they would just be sitting around not doing anything. So
Well, that's what I
Horizon will
was
keep them
wondering,
busy.
Because what'd you say, we had like 40 cases?
Yeah.
And they're 7 days each? So that doesn't quite
yeah,
equate
it-
to a full-time.
It potentially could fill up very quickly, but I don't think we would send all of those 40 cases right now. I think we'd be starting with kids next year.
But they would have the sessions with them and the background work and things that go with it. So it's multiple events that take place. But we have in the grant we're working with the county right now, we have the option of full-time, funding it full-time, or trying to fund it part-time. And so we're talking to the county about that and how we want to move forward with that.
Okay. Well, I will say that I think that it is a good extra tool to have. You know, it may not be right for every student, but I do think that it could be right for some. And I appreciate you having some insight and ways to help us to have more options.
Well, we get to a point where we keep doing the same things, and it's not. So let's try to do some preventive work and some counseling work to try to help some of these students, as opposed to just you're not in school for the amount of time or just alternate place. That doesn't change the behaviors. We need to figure out ways to try to change their behaviors and address those behaviors, and I think is where we need to start focusing a little bit.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
So the parents are involved. I heard with everything I'm reading. I'm gonna read it again tonight, but the parents are in a major part of this.
Yes, ma'am.
I think if that's not understood, if somebody's listening to us tonight, this can't be a solo situation. I mean, it's gotta be everybody on board. Otherwise, it'd just be another service that fails.
Correct.
But I like it, like Ms. Thompson said, we have to do something, because I was one of the people that told you that it's getting out of control.
Yes, ma'am.
It's vaping and bringing things to school and using things on school property, and it's just a mess. And the bigger picture is when these children are suspended for 10 days or what have you, the achievement level goes down. The classes suffer. Not everybody, but we can see that that's happening. So my word out there is just we got to turn this around. And you're right, it's all over, but we're just talking about right here. Right here in this county, we have to turn it around.
That's right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next.
So the next one on my discussion point are contracts, and I spoke with most of you during the past month regarding discussions again with other superintendents across the state and trying to be, having some fallbacks. So the state has yet to approve the budget. The skinny budget is what we have. The skinny budget does not fund us at a level that we need to be, that we built our budget off of. Now, most of our budget is in salary. And so what I recommend to you tonight is, what we'll recommend doing is taking our contracts. We have to issue contracts because it's that time of year to issue contracts, even though we don't have a state budget. We had been saying 7% pay raise, and we still intend to do a 7% pay raise, but I need to have the funding from the state to do a 7% pay raise. And right now, off of the skinny budget, we would only have funding for a 5% pay increase. So instead of issuing a contract for 7%, and then we don't get the money from the state, if the state does not do anything and they keep the money as it is in the skinny budget, I'd be taking money back and rewriting contracts. I would much rather issue a contract for 5% with the information that we intend, once we get funding from the state, to reissue contracts for the 7%, as opposed to doing a 7% and having to take money back from staff. We've been told it could be June, July, or August before the state approves a budget. So we can't wait till July or August to issue contracts. So we need to issue contracts based off of the information we have, and the information we have right now is that we feel very comfortable, well, not very comfortable, we feel comfortable enough that we can issue a 5% raise in their contracts. And then as funding comes in from the state and that gets verified, that we will issue an amended contract for the 7% pay increase as we discussed in our budget.
Any questions from the board?
So what I intend to do is tomorrow morning there'll be an email going to staff, and then next week I'll be scheduling faculty meetings at all the schools to discuss this with staff so they have a clear understanding of the why and what our intent is. But again, we need to make sure that we're fiscally responsible. And I'd hate to promise somebody, for example, $2,000, and then 3 weeks later I have to say, nope, I can only give you $1,500 or $1,000. So I don't want to do that. I'd rather give them ensure the 5, and we will go up when the money gets appropriated.
Dr. Wells.
Sir.
So you're saying it could be a couple weeks, could be a month before they approve it. We'll be signing contracts and whatnot. Will the difference, if we do get the approval for the 7%, will it be retroactive back to the original contract date?
It would go to the July 1 start date.
Okay, so it would go back to that.
Correct.
Okay.
So we're just waiting. Again, we're at the mercy of the state, and until they approve a budget that they've been in negotiations with for the past 2 months, we really are just kind of in limbo.
Dr. Wells, can I add a comment?
Sir.
All right, thank you. And I know Dr. Wells has met with superintendents from around the state. This is not an Amherst County specific situation, is what I wanted to highlight, that most, if not all, divisions across the state are in the same situation and are in fact doing the exact same thing. And I know that our local region divisions are also doing this as well. So I just wanted to highlight that this isn't specific to Amherst, and we are continuing to be hopeful that as they continue to work towards agreeing on an appropriate budget, that will come through, and we'll be able to then reissue the contracts at the 7 that's been approved by our board.
And we'll also add that the additional 1% for transportation and so forth, that will still go forward, but the general contract, instead of being a 5, instead of being a 7, it's 5. For the transportation folks, instead of being that extra 1, it comes down to a 6 versus the 8. So that's kind of how we're going to work it. But the general contract will go from 7% to the 5%.
Okay. Anything else, board?
And that's not the conversation I want to have tonight, but I think to be, again, responsible, I think that's where we have to be. The next on my list is the mental health RFP. So we have signed an MOU with the Madeline Center and to provide therapeutic day treatment services for us next year. So we will have that. It won't look exactly like it has in the past, but I'll let Ms. Dr. Patrone speak to that.
She needs a new name tag too. See there.
On the way.
Okay.
I wasn't prepared to speak on this one. So, yeah, we did enter into a contract with the Madeline Center. They are going to do outpatient therapy, therapeutic day treatment, and some crisis services in our buildings, which we're very excited to have some crisis services because that's been missing here over the last few years. The day treatment will look a little bit different. It will still provide support to our students, but it won't be an as-needed type of service. It'll be more of a scheduled service where a student receives a day treatment service maybe from like 9 to 9:30. And so one day they push into the classroom with the student, and the next day they might pull them out and do something therapeutic, but that's their scheduled time period. And at other time periods, they're with other students, so they're not necessarily on call all day as they have been in the past. So that's the main difference that we're going to have to communicate to our schools this year.
Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot.
That's okay. I'm used to it.
So next for me is the VAST conference. I attended the VAST conference last Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It was a good conference for other state superintendents across the state. And our new state superintendent, Dr. Kuhn, spoke to us on Monday morning. That was a very positive conversation that we had. So I feel much better about the direction of where we are now, given the feedback we've gotten there. So it was just a good experience and have some good feedback. But again, the main thing was I was able to kind of talk to other superintendents and get some feelings about them regarding what's happening in their divisions. And they're seeing some of the same, again, a lot of the same problems we're facing across the state, from the budget, again, to the THC issues and so forth. But the day treatment in some parts of the state, that didn't exist. So I commend Dr. Patron for working out with Madeline Center and getting us something, because some school divisions aren't even able to have what we're doing next year. So we're grateful for that. Date reminders, I do want to go over a few date reminders with you. So the 18th, Mr. Gallagher already talked about, that's the recognition ceremony, retirement recognition ceremony at 6 o'clock. A few other events you may want to try to attend would be the Golden Age ceremony on May 8th at 6 p.m. That's at the high school. We have senior awards on May 10th at the high school at 6:30 p.m. On May 15th, we have CVCC's graduation. Several of our students in the early college and other programs will be participating in that program. So if you can be there for that, that would be good. I know Ms. Legan will probably have to be there, so I know we have one rep there. I'll do my best. We're going to try to attend. And then our big night for us is graduation, and that is on the 26th. I will need an idea. We'll send an email out to you regarding who wants transportation. If you want to ride in the van, I'll have the van meet here in Amherst, here at the school board office, as well as the food line in Madison Heights, or Amaline, whichever y'all prefer, and we can provide transportation to take you to graduation so you don't have to fight all the traffic. And then we'll get you there around 6. We'll have light refreshments for you, and the ceremony will start at 7. And we'll have around 280 graduates, hopefully, make it across the stage and get their diplomas on the 26th. So those are some of the big dates. The other ones you have at your place, I believe, so you can kind of look at any other thing you want to go to. But those would be the major events that I would recommend. If we can have you attend, it'd be wonderful. But graduation, I won't say it's a requirement, but I work for you, but I would highly encourage you to attend if at all possible. So that's on date reminders. The program banking time, I sent you an email about this, and it's basically a pre-K through 3rd grade, and it works with building relationships and activities with students. We want to look into this and just see if it's appropriate. It's a pilot program through UVA, and so we're planning on just speaking with them to see if it's something that is appropriate for us or not. And if it is, I'll bring more information to you, but I want you to be aware that we are going to speak with them about that and just see if it's something, and look into that a little bit more to see if it's something we can do. And I will say that if it's not right for Amherst County, we're not going to do it. So trust me, if it's something that we don't think is right for our kids, right for our staff, we won't do it. But I think it is something worth looking into. And so we want to take the time to look into it to see if it's something that will benefit our students and our staff. So I'll be glad to answer any questions, probably offline if you'd like to ask any other further conversation on that. But I think it's worth us investigating anyway, at the least. But again, if it's something that we don't feel is appropriate or does not meet the values of Amherst County, we're not going to do it. So I'll just leave it at that. Next on my list is a trout release. This is something I hold near and dear to my heart. It gives me an opportunity to actually instruct our kids a little bit. So all of our, some schools did 3rd grade, some schools did 4th grade, but every school in the county, every elementary school participated, either the 3rd or 4th graders. And we took them up to Peddler River. And this was one of the a couple sunny days we had. Did at Manelson Middle School and AEC on earlier this week, and it was 49 degrees and miserable. But most of the days, for the elementary schools at least, it was in the 70s, some days 80s. I was, in my waders sweating to death. But it was a great day, good event. We do the trout release. We do the Trout in the Classroom project, as you know. We released over 700 trout with that elementary kids raised. But part of that also was learning about the environment and what it takes. Why do trout live in Peddler River or in the mountain streams? What do they have to have, and the ecosystem and so forth. So we hit that. We talk about the macroinvertebrates. So you have to know what is a macroinvertebrate, what does macro mean, what is an invertebrate. We start with that, and then we go from there as to talking about. Then they have to find them, classify them, identify them, classify them, and then they do a little bit of math to determine the water quality. So they have to identify the insects, how many of those insects they found, do the math on that. There's a chart they use, and come up with the water quality. And so that's part of the project. We have them there for about 2 hours, but they get to go through that, and we is controlled at first, and then at the end we give them some unorganized chaos so they can find the stuff on their own. And some kids tend to fall in the water on purpose and so forth, but they have a good time while they're there. So it's a great day, and it's a good activity for our students. So something I enjoy. It pulls me out the office a little bit, but sometimes that's not a bad thing either. So anyway, do you have any questions or comments?
It's like therapy for the superintendent, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So Day of Giving, the last thing on my list is Day of Giving. And so the high school participated in Day of Giving the Friday before spring break. And Mr. Crawford's here. I'm just going to let him speak to that versus me speaking to that. Sure.
Sir.
Good evening, everybody. So on the day before spring break, which was April 7th, we had the opportunity to participate at Amherst County High School in the Day of Giving. For those of you that don't know, the Day of Giving was actually started by Dr. Wells when he was the principal, several years ago. So we've tried to continue that. Haven't been able to do it the last couple years due to COVID, but we were excited to get it back off its feet. And so initially we sent the notice out to our faculty and quickly realized that there was a lot of faculty that weren't here when we did the last Day of Giving in 2019. And so we had to explain it a little bit more, had a few questions. Slowly but surely, they volunteered to go to different places, and then it exploded into just about 700 people within our building participating in this event. We went to 30 different locations throughout the county. We did go to 2 locations in Lynchburg. Every school in the division participated. We had students that went to all the elementary schools, both middle schools, and they did more projects than just outside work. They did more than just spreading mulch, pulling weeds, planting bushes. They got into the classrooms and worked with our younger students. I got the opportunity to talk to several principals. They were thankful that our students came to work with their students because that's where they were. That's where they came from. Many of our students signed up to go back to their schools where they got, their elementary education or their middle education. I did have the opportunity to go to Temperance, which is near and dear to my heart. And I can tell you that at Temperance Elementary School, there were people out in the pouring down rain working on the garden. Miss Jeanette Mears, who's an instructional assistant there, had those students out there working in the garden, pouring down rain, and I loved it. It did rain. It was a little chilly that day, but for the most part, everybody stayed. They did everything that they were asked to do. The kids had a great time. And the best thing that I saw the entire day was we had students that typically, maybe they're not always friends, maybe they're not best friends, but they were working together, different grade levels. Just it was really cool to see. They didn't sign up just to go with their friends. They signed up for places that they wanted to go and for people that they wanted to go help. And so it was a great event. I think the people that participated really appreciated it. I think the people that were at the locations that we went to appreciated us being there. And it's something that we definitely want to continue doing. So it was an awesome event. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. So I just want to add that, we speak of the county, we're here because of the county taxpayers, and the county provides the funds for our school out in the state. But it's important for us to remember that, we need to give back to our community as well. And for them to see our students involved in community service, it just shows the caliber of students that we have in our school system at our high school. So I just think all the folks who sponsored the students, appreciate the students going out, but also we want to thank the businesses and other locations in the county that allowed us to come in to participate. And I think it just builds that connection with our community, and that's the vital link that, they need to see our kids in action and see that we have some excellent students. And, it's not, typically all people hear about is the 5%, and we know the 5% I'm speaking of. They don't hear about the other 95% who do the great things. So it's important for them to see the 95% of our students who are doing great things and participate with those. So again, I thank Mr. Crawford for organizing that and everybody that participated. So that's all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
Board, anything for Dr. Wells? I do have a quick question. When did we start doing Day of Caring?
2017?
17?
Yeah.
Was that the tornado?
Well, it kind of started unofficially at the tornado, and then the following year, we ramped it up.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, cool. Thank you, sir. So let's see. Moving on next to committee reports from the school board members, and we can lump that in with individual school board member reports. I'd like to start off and welcome Mrs. Saunders, and you can lead us tonight if you would like. If you would like, we can come back to you. We don't mind. We don't want to put you on the spot, but
I'm okay. I mean, I'm gonna make it short and sweet.
there you go.
I'm all about it. I mean, I'm looking at my watch going, whoa.
Only the first night.
I know.
Yeah.
My eyes sort of got a little large when they said 10 o'clock at night. So. But I would like to thank you all for appointing me to the District 1 as representative. I appreciate it. All the students left, all the teachers left. I was really disappointed. I wanted to give a big thank you to our teachers. I think they do an awesome job. But even more importantly, we have a great group of students, don't we? I mean, I have to, so I'm a little biased, but it really makes you proud when you see this room is full and of all the accomplishments that they've done. So good job to everyone. So that's all for me.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rossi.
Yeah, it's been a very good night recognizing the accomplishments of 25-year teachers, welders, the foodies. Is that what we're calling them nowadays? But it's just incredible. And just to hear Amherst County showing up and being at these events, and the students and the teachers that put in the hard work to get the students ready to compete, it's incredible. And getting the name out there to making this Amherst known and more desirable for people to want to be here. And it is a good hometown feel. And all the teachers put forth so much effort, the faculty, the staff here, administration continue to surprise me every time I come to a meeting, is all the great things that are happening, and you see the hard work. I see little signs in the yards where people are doing, accomplishing good things for students and showing up to the events. It just gives me a good feeling that's why, my family moved here was because of Amherst. It was a long, long time ago, but we moved here because of Amherst, and it's still true today. And moving that legacy forward, it's great to be here, and I'm happy to be a part of it. And I know we're just seeing little glimpses of what we're looking forward to next year. We've had our challenges this year, and it's not over yet, but we're still moving forward. I'm excited to hear about the building and the stuff going on at the high school, and I think we're going to meet those challenges and move forward. I'd like to thank everybody for putting forth all the effort in the world, because I know it takes a lot. It takes a lot of dedication. I know we're not doing it for the pay, so I mean that says a lot. It really does, and that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Ligon?
Well, I'll be short as well, but I welcome Ms. Saunders, and I think you'll have a lot of fun. We have fun, you know. In due time, we have a lot of fun. Well, we had a law board meeting this week, and we approved the budget there, and on the contention of what the state does with their budget, but we went with what LCS has, and right now it's 7. So things went well there. We said goodbye to Dr. Johnson from Campbell County. This will be his last law board meeting, and so we'll see who will come on board in August. We have, let's see, Mr. Neighbors, we have 4 students there, or 5? 4 students there, and things are doing well under Dr. Lewis's regime. They're having graduation at the end of May. We don't have any graduates from Amherst this time, but we still try to participate with that if we can, so things are well at Laurel. We'd like to congratulate everybody tonight. It was wonderful. The month of May is fun. Everybody's coming and going, little people registering for pre-K, and people like Evan leaving. So I can understand it's a busy time, but trust me, you'll look back on and say, I wish I could do it again. Maybe not, but
Yeah, you will.
it's still fun to just enjoy. And we did enjoy the Golden Tassel last night. Dr. Wells did a wonderful speech to Evan and to others, and so it was good. So we're just excited, and getting out doing some softball and some baseball, and things are very good right now in the month of May. So once again, just congratulations to everyone who received things tonight. Good.
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you. I'd like to just say thank you to Mr. Johnson, Ms. Schubert, Mr. Addison, and Mrs. Stinson for the work that they've done with our students. I mean, I think it just really showed their commitment, their dedication to their students, and just the awards, the camaraderie. I had a parent come up and just say, thank you so much for this program after school, and of course, I didn't have anything to do with it, but in the same vein, it really met the needs of their child. And so I just want to say thank you to them for the time and the dedication that they've given, and to all the students that did the hard work themselves and made such great strides and received great awards. I want to say thank you to Evan and Fatima for being with us and putting up with us for the long hours. We always enjoy having you and listening to you and all of the input that you have. And Fatima's not here, but I will say one of the first football games I went to, I think I had met her once, and it was crowded, and all of a sudden I felt someone tug on my arm, and there was Fatima, Miss Thompson, Miss Thompson. And I just want her to know what a special moment that was for me, because she made me feel very, very special. I want to say also thank you to our 25-year veterans that have been working with us, and I just want to say we do 25 more. You don't want to hear me say that, but you're valuable, and we hope that you continue to work with us. And the Day of Giving, it's just warms your heart to hear. And I wanted to know, is there any place that we have a list of all the things that our students have done with the Day of Caring? Do we have that documented?
So yes, Ms. Clark, one of our school counselors at Amherst County High School, she's been a big part of it since Dr. Wells was there. I guarantee you she's probably got a list of every business and school and everybody that's...
Maybe we want to put that on our website or something, but I did check it out really quick here before I asked that question. But, just to see all the work that you guys have done, and I just think that it is just the pride of our schools and our community. And I want to say welcome, Mrs. Saunders. Hope that you will enjoy working with us. We know that we will enjoy working with you. And as I finish up, I would just want to take a minute to thank you, Dr. Wells. I know that you lead us and you lead the division and you have the big picture and you deal with all of that big crazy stuff, but you always take time to do the important things. Today you were cafeteria monitor, I believe. You're at the streams with the kids doing the trout fishing. So you understand what it takes and you do it all. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So I'd like to start off, and I'd like to reach out to Lynchburg City Schools from the beginning, just because I know they lost another student this week to gun violence. And luckily, our county has not been a victim of that yet, but I'm hoping we never are. So I hope we don't have to deal with that. So just want to keep them in our prayers. But also, you know, it's great seeing all the students come in. When you hear Amherst County winning all the awards that they do, and it's for the external, the extracurricular things that these kids got going on. It's not just keeping up their grades, it's doing the extra things, going the extra mile. We love seeing their expressions as they get their awards and knowing that, you know, they've done this, whatever it was, no matter which program it was. I didn't even realize some of these actually truly even existed. But like Ms. Thompson said, you know, not every kid is about sports. So it's great to, you know, give them some things to do after school and let them be a part of these extracurricular things. Our student reps, so Evan, Tina Grace, you guys, like I said, you guys put in the extra hours and sit here and endure us. And hopefully you can get some homework done and that kind of stuff while you're sitting there. I understand. But good luck to both of you as you go on off into college next year, and good luck to you. I did get to go to the dedication of the baseball field for Mr. Procopio a couple weeks ago. That was a very touching presentation. It was great to see him and so many of his players, past players, other coaches. It was a great night to be out. Yes, seniors are very busy. All of them are very busy. I know they, along with all the other students, will be glad when the school year's over. It gets to that point. Everybody's tired and ready to, let's chuck this one and put it behind us. But stay strong. It's almost here. So keep it up, guys. We do have a busy calendar coming up in May. So everything we can attend, we'll try to be there. Like I said, it's great to see the kids getting the senior awards and the graduation and all the stuff that comes with it. And Dr. Wells, your trout release, I know that's, like you said, that's always been near and dear to your heart. It's something that, you know, a lot of kids don't, you know, if they're not from Amherst County, a lot of them don't get to go out and play in the stream. And those who do live in Amherst County, who don't go out and play in the stream, this is their chance to do something fun like that and remind them why we do live in this county, that that's the stuff that's here that we want our kids to know about and be a part of. But mostly the Day of Caring, you know, that goes right back to where we started at the beginning of the year, the Show Up Amherst. You know, we're going out, we're putting our students out there, getting them to be ready to move on to the real world and being a part of a community. Hopefully it's this community, but we know they all move on and a lot of them move to other places. We want to know that when they do move to other places, then people go, well, where are you from? Because we love how you interact with people that, you know, they're proud to say they're from Amherst County and what they got from here. So all that is, you know, it's very crucial to our county. So thank you very much for encouraging that and influencing that. And like I said, if we could get a list of all of them, you know, it'd be great to be able to show, you know, this is what our kids have done, and put that out there. So it's an awesome thing. So I don't know. I'm sure I left off a couple things, but oh yeah, the construction project. You know, I know it's maybe not where we want it dollar-wise, but, you know, we'll get it looking a little better. And I think there again, that's another project that's going to go toward extracurriculars and just enhanced opportunities for our kids. And so the more opportunities we give them there, you know, the better. So thank the board for all that we've done, and thank you guys for helping us, everybody get there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So
I think you need a motion.
I think I need a motion.
I make a motion that we adjourn tonight's meeting.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.